Hi, everyone, and thanks for showing up today for a virtual talk on the ever more important topic of building a better workplace for parents in 2020. I'm Cheryl, and I lead global family programs on the benefits team at Google in the Bay Area. We are so excited to be here as part of the I Am Remarkable Week. I Am Remarkable is a Google initiative that empowers everyone with focus on women and underrepresented groups to celebrate their achievements. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Allison Robinson, the co-founder and chief executive officer of the TheMomProject. Allison, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Hello, everyone. Allison Robinson, founder and CEO of the TheMomProject. I am so delighted to be here today, sharing a little bit more about the TheMomProject and our journey and our efforts to build a better workplace for all. So thank you so much, Cheryl. Just delighted to be here.
Welcome, Allison. So let's kick off with a question we ask all of our speakers. What makes you remarkable?
I believe that I am remarkable because I have followed my dream of building a company that I really believe should exist in the world. And I didn't give up when times got really hard and I didn't think I would be able to make it through, but I persevered. And because I did not give up, we've since been able to connect our community with over $100 million in economic opportunity.
That's fantastic, amazing. So tell us about the mission of the TheMomProject and your motivation for founding the company.
Absolutely, Cheryl. So our mission at the TheMomProject is to build a future where women no longer feel like they have to choose between their families or their careers. My inspiration for creating the company probably started when I was at P&G. So I spent about 8 years at P&G, most recently working on our Pampers innovation team for North America. And in that role, I got to spend a lot of time in homes with moms, hearing about their stories and hearing about their challenges. And a couple of things became very clear to me. One was that moms work so hard to build a better future for their family. I saw how hard they work putting themselves through school and working multiple jobs to provide that great future for their family. The other thing I observed was that moms, by and large, felt very underappreciated for their efforts, and that left such an impression on me. And I actually went on maternity leave while in that role, had my son Asher just over 5 years ago. And while I was at home with him on maternity leave, I read that over 40% of American women leave the workforce after having children. And I knew that we could and must do better as a society to make it possible for women, for parents to have successful careers while also navigating parenthood. And I believe that we can unlock a lot of potential in the workforce by enabling more career paths where parents could have that reality. So it was very much born out of my own need and have learned certainly a lot along the way, but it's been just an incredible journey.
That's so fantastic and very inspirational. So why did you focus your goal on a female audience? Is it specifically for moms, or are there other caregivers that can join the platform?
Yeah, well, I saw that serving moms in the workforce was a massively underserved opportunity. Work has not been working for moms for quite some time. If you look at the BLS data, you'll see that the rate of women participating in the labor force has actually been stagnating over the last 30 years. And so it became evident to me I really needed to focus on unlocking this potential of this very large segment of the workforce. And what I learned was that much of the gender pay gap was actually a motherhood career penalty. Moms in the US actually make 71 cents for every dollar a father makes. Black moms make 51 cents for every dollar a Black dad makes. And Latina moms make only 49 cents for every dollar a Latina father makes. So it became clear to me by focusing on moms, that was our biggest opportunity to really move the needle on this topic. But I think we have seen, one of the cool things that we've seen though is the mission speaks to a much broader audience than just moms. And so we really welcome anyone into our community that identifies with our mission. And we have hundreds of thousands of moms, dads, and allies who are really excited to be solving this problem with us.
That's amazing to hear. And what type of career opportunities are available for everybody on your platform?
All kinds. So the marketplace has grown to about 300,000 professionals in the last 4.5 years. So it's really a diverse group of professionals from all types of backgrounds. My original thesis when I started the company was that it would be very focused on project-based work. I had read a stat very early on that women represented the full-time majority of freelancers, and moms really love the flexibility and autonomy that project-based work provided. So we started out really focused on project-based contract work. But as we've expanded the network and it's grown so quickly and reached such a broad audience, we realized that in order to serve for moms and dads and allies in earnest, we had to really expand the types of opportunities on the platform. So now, in addition to project-based work, we have an abundance of full-time, part-time opportunities. We work with companies to create really incredible return-to-work programs. And earlier this year, we actually acquired a company called Work to form Work Labs. And so through Work Labs, we're actually helping companies build stronger, more diverse cultures as well. So it's really grown and evolved, and proud to say we really offer such a wide array of work types. Everything from jobs in technology and product to retail. So we really want to meet moms and dads where they are. And we've also expanded the ways that we can serve our users. So originally it was just about connecting them with the job opportunity. But we realized that there were a lot of other pain points that parents were experiencing, such as being able to articulate the experiences gained while they were on a career pause. So we created something called Resume Rep, where they can talk about that career pause with pride. We also recently launched a new feature called Lounges, where members of the community can come together and talk about challenges such as the shift to remote learning, or navigating a workforce reentry, or how to think about ramping back onto a full-time job after maternity leave and while nursing, etc. So we really believe there's so much power in bringing the shared experiences of working motherhood and working parenthood. So we're excited to kind of layer that onto the platform.
Fantastic. Do you find that companies are working towards a more gender balanced workplace, specifically in, say, management teams and the boardroom?
Absolutely. I certainly do. I think the explosive growth that we've seen in the Mom Project is certainly a testament to the commitment level that companies have to attract and retain women in the workplace. I have the pleasure in my role to get to meet with a lot of different companies. And I found, even from when I started the company about 4.5 years ago, we were just starting to see this host of chief diversity emerge. And it wasn't really clear what their mandate was, to now diversity typically be representing a top 3 or 4 corporate priority for companies across the country. So it's been exciting for me to see diversity really shift from we should do this to this is a business imperative. Starbucks announced a couple weeks ago they're actually tying their executive compensation to diversity metrics. And we're starting to see a lot more policy around this as well. In the state of California, it's a requirement that there be at least 1 female board member for publicly traded companies. Goldman Sachs has mandated that they will only take companies public if they have a diverse board. So I think it's really, it's been just such a shift in the short time since I founded this business.
Yeah, it's really great to see just society and other large companies acknowledge this, because it's so important just for pushing underrepresented groups forward. So I'm so glad to hear that.
Absolutely.
And along those veins, how can companies be better allies in order to build a better workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would say is companies have to be willing to do the hard work. What I have seen is there is no one single silver bullet to really make tremendous progress against DE&I, and it takes a lot of intentionality each and every day to build a better workplace that is diverse, that is inclusive, and really cultivates a culture of belonging. A couple of the ways that I would encourage allyship amongst companies, I'd love to see more companies sharing best practices, open sourcing what's working really well. That's really helping them move the needle on DE&I. I think there's just a lot of shared experiences. And by better sharing those learnings, we could accelerate progress. There's an organization that I love. It's called the Parents in Tech Alliance. It's a lot of Bay Area tech companies, and often they send representatives from maybe the head of the employee resource group for working parents, and they join together, I believe, monthly as a collective and share what's going really well, what's not going well, how they're moving the needle. So I'd love to see more of that collaboration happening across the board. The other way that I think companies can really foster allyship is let the voice of employees guide the work and the priorities. At the Mom Project, we recently launched a number of ERGs. And so, the output of that has really helped inform where we prioritize our efforts, whether that be hiring, culture, advancement of minorities, etc. There's so much value in grassroots effort. Through our work at Work Labs, our research and insights, we have the pleasure of working with companies and doing a lot of qualitative research with their employees. And often very interesting trends emerge. I'll just share the example that when we look specifically at topics like parental leave, we know that parents get really frustrated when their managers, who are not perhaps parents, look at that leave as being an extended vacation or a sabbatical. So I think it's just really important to allow those voices to be heard and use that as the roadmap to prioritize.
Yeah, and totally hear you on the community. I think the power of the community is really, really important. And sharing of thoughts and opinions and making sure that these voices are heard is just such a key driver in pushing these forward.
Absolutely.
So how do we make sure that work-life balance is systemic in our workplace?
Such a great question. I would say role modeling is so key here. One of the worst things that can happen is a company has great policies like remote work, paid parental leave, unlimited time off, and no one actually feels empowered to take advantage of these benefits. It is so important that managers, leaders role model these behaviors and really empower their employees to take advantage of them. I think that is so critical. We see for a lot of companies, they have these great policies, but the utilization ends up being very small. I also think a lot about accessibility for work-life balance integration. One of the things that I am fearful of is I'm seeing a bit of an increasing divide between workers who have access to work and life benefits and those who do not. I would love to see much more concerted effort going towards hourly workers who don't often have access to those work-life benefits. And I think this became very apparent for me over the last 6 months during the pandemic, when frontline workers didn't have the option to work from home and had to put their family's health and safety in jeopardy to earn a paycheck. So I think I really hope that we can put more of a concerted effort towards protecting hourly workers. Also from a policy perspective, if you consider that 1 in 4 women have to go back to work within 2 weeks of giving birth, you see that divide. So I think, so to summarize, role modeling from managers and leadership is so critical, and accessibility to these benefits for all.
Yeah, and totally hear you, especially just on both pieces. The manager is such the key to the employee's experience before they go on leave, during leave, and after leave. So great to hear you mention those points. And I think a lot of companies and a lot of managers and a lot of people can work together to make this experience better for a lot of parents.
Absolutely. The impact of the direct manager on the overall employee experience cannot be understated.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd love to hear more specifically about the Mom Project as well. So what are some of the best practices from the Mom Project to create a sense of career and life balance?
Yeah. Well, the one shift right now that's occurring, moving full steam ahead, that I am so excited about is the shift to remote work. We recently announced at the Mom Project we are moving our workforce to be virtual first. So I am just so excited about giving employees the freedom to choose where they work. I think this is just going to be such a enabler to more people, particularly from underrepresented backgrounds, being able to participate in the workforce. So I'm very bullish on that. A second trend that we're really encouraging is the shift from hours worked to managing employees to outcomes and deliverables, and telling them what needs to get done, but really leaving the how to them and empowering them in that way. Recently, Dropbox took this to a new level. They shared, in addition to moving virtual first, they were also introducing nonlinear work weeks. So you have employees that maybe work Monday, Tuesday, have Wednesday, Thursday off, and get back to work on Friday. I just think that is really, really incredible. And I think the more and more we can move to a output-based performance culture is going to be really key. The third thing I would say is just make it part of the culture as the de facto. If I reflect on the managers that meant the most to me and had such a critical role in my development earlier in my career, it was the managers who were parents first or grandparents first or daughters first and really led with that, and were managers and leaders second. So I think really modeling that behavior again, encouraging people to prioritize their personal life, their health, their family, will go such a long way in just cementing that behavior.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. I think COVID has really taught us that flexibility is so key during this time, especially since caregivers and parents have so much to juggle. There's just not enough time in the day to do it all. And it's great to see employers start to recognize that too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So some people in our audience could be at the start of their career journey as mothers and fathers. So what guidance would you provide them?
Yeah, I would say first, be kind to yourself. One of the most common things that we hear from our community is how pervasive mom guilt is. In this, need to be the very best mother, the very best professional, and we set ourselves up for such high expectations. So I would say, number one is be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself. Know that there is no one right path. Everybody's career path, life path looks very different. I would encourage you to do what feels right for you, and don't worry about the expectations of anybody else. Ultimately, we have one life to live, and you've got to be the architect behind really what matters to you. So whether your goal is to keep getting promoted, maybe take a little bit of time out of the workforce to focus on family, or something in between, trust your gut. And the Mom Project has your back. We're here to support you along the way, however we can.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think as a new parent, there's just so much life change that goes on, and totally agree. I think being kind to yourself is just such an important theme and message to carry in your heart and your mind as you're going back to work and you're facing a huge life shift again.
Absolutely. So important. Cheryl.
For sure. All right. And if you had to share one call to action to better career-life balance overall, what would it be?
There is a story that I absolutely love. It was from the former CEO of Coca-Cola, a guy by the name of Brian Dyson. And maybe you've heard this one before, Cheryl. He was giving a commencement speech at Georgia Tech, I believe. And in it, he discussed the difference between glass and rubber balls. His insights, I think, are as valuable today as they were when he delivered the speech. And the way he gave the story is, imagine in life you're juggling 5 balls in the air. You've got work, you've got your family, you've got your health, you've got your friends, and you've got your spirit. And you're keeping all of these in the air, right? And what you'll realize is that work is a rubber ball. You can throw it and it will come back. The others are glass. And if they drop, you could do damage forever. So I think that is just such an important reminder. You have to understand what's important to you and then really prioritize family, your health. These are the things that really matter, and work will ebb and flow.
Yeah, and I 100% love that story. It's just so easy to lose track of what's important, especially when stressors in your life sometimes lead you down a different path. And so, yeah, I think that's such a great story.
Yeah.
Now we'll open it up for live Q&A for anyone who wants to go ahead and ask a question. And it looks like we do have one question in from Ula. And she says, the concept that I'm struggling so much with is for us women to often be expected to do it all, which leads to burnout sooner than later. Is there any way to change that unhealthy expectation?
Yeah, I completely agree, Ula. In fact, Working Mother reports the average working mom works 98 hours. So the demands are very high, and we do see many women getting burnt out. I think you've got to find your support system. It is unreasonable to expect that you can do it all. For me, I have an incredible nanny who helps me. She's the glue that holds our household together. So you really got to find that support system. But be patient with yourself. Be kind. Again, I think that is so important. And it all goes back to your priorities. As you look at how you're spending the day, is it on the things that matter most to you, and the things that are not necessary? How can you deprioritize them?
Yeah, and completely agree. I've often heard this from my community of other mothers as well. And I think the resonating answer that we all forget is, don't be afraid to ask for help. We feel like we are expected to do it all, but honestly, we can't. We only have a certain amount of hours in every day, just like everybody else. So I think that's such a great message. We have another question from Jorge. So he says, I can't say how valuable I felt to have the paternity leave option, but I agree that not everyone uses the benefit and it just widens the gap. Is there any role modeling action you have seen as effective to make everyone aware of the importance of using the benefit? Perhaps widely mentioning that we should be using the benefit.
Yeah, great question. Again, I think this is where the manager becomes really key. One of our investors is Alexis Ohanian. He's one of the most outspoken advocates for dads taking parental leave. So I think a lot of this is a cultural shift. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to keep your teams honest to say, why are you not taking that paternity leave. And we've seen that at our company. We've seen dads maybe we have a gender neutral policy, and we often see dads maybe or thinking that they'll take 2 to 3 weeks versus moms taking advantage of 12 weeks, the full policy. So I think this is the job of people ops, the manager, to say it's really important for other employees to see you do this, and hold them accountable to utilizing the program. Otherwise, it will continue to put women at a disadvantage if only moms are taking parental leave.
Yeah, completely hear you and 100% echo the manager's key role in this. I think it's so important for leaders to step up and then model that behavior themselves. I think it would be a fantastic experience for employees to see that a VP who's a dad has taken his full time off and has actually stuck to it too. So gone completely offline, didn't check email, or at least didn't tell people he was checking email, and just really modeled that behavior. So yeah, I think it's really great to have leadership support. Yeah. So we have another question from Renata. So happy this meaningful work is being done. We need to continue to do more to advocate for pay equity amongst women and people of color. Any recommendations to help organizations start to examine and make actions around pay equity?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of companies, what we see is they're looking at pay equity on a total roll-up basis, and they really need to be looking at it at a team level, a functional level, because some really interesting insights and perhaps inequities will emerge. So I would say the more micro you can get the data, that is one of the best ways that I've seen to move the needle. People of color, I mentioned some of the jarring stats and inequities between moms of color. So I think, one of the programs that I'm really proud that we've recently launched at the Mom Project is we actually recently formed a 501c3 and launched a program called RISE, where we've committed over the next 3 years that we will be granting over 10,000 scholarships specifically for women of color and getting them technical certifications, including Google, Microsoft, and others. So we know that women of color are underrepresented in highly skilled work. So I think we all need to figure out new pathways to help elevate, in particular, women of color.
Yeah, definitely. And we've also taken steps at Google to address the pay equity as well. And we recently launched a student loan repayment program because we realized that student loan was disproportionately affecting certain underrepresented groups. And so I think it's fabulous that companies are starting to recognize this and make action to address the pay equity gaps.
That's really cool that you're doing that, Cheryl. I love that.
Yeah, we were, I personally was very happy to see this.
That is amazing. I love that.
So we have another question from Elizabeth. She says, I'm not a parent, but how can other work colleagues support them in their career-life balance or any other struggle in a company?
Yeah, I think being understanding, being patient, as we've all sort of shifted to this remote work environment, you'll probably see children on your Zoom calls, and just being a reassuring voice and say hello to the child. And I think goes such a long way in making people feel supported, and advocating for policies like gender neutral paid parental leave, childcare subsidies. And when moms are not in the room, I was on a panel earlier in the week, and one woman in particular spoke about how she was too often not considered for promotions because people assumed that she couldn't take that on because she was a single mom and had so many other obligations. When moms are not in the room, speak up for them. We're often not in the room. So we really need non-parents, non-moms advocating for us, giving us those opportunities, not presuming that we can't do it because we're moms.
Yeah, I love the aspect about not making assumptions. So and you mentioned this previously, a lot of people assume that parental leave and maternity leave was actually a vacation. And I think it would be great for more of those assumptions to get debunked, and showing maybe what's behind the scenes when a parent actually goes on leave to take care of their children. And then also, I think, love the idea and the fact of speaking up for a parent when they're not in the room. So don't assume somebody can't travel because you think that they're probably going to want to stay home. They might be up for just the same opportunities, if not more, before they went out on leave for their children.
It's so true. And we know that nearly 1 million women left the workforce in September. And so we were speaking to a company that thought they just shouldn't consider hiring moms right now because they're, overwhelmed or whatnot with childcare. And so they were kind of putting that off the table. And we were saying, no, we need bold action now more than ever. So I think too often people are counting us out at a time when we need that support more than ever.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's so sad to see these headlines too. And I think another way that coworkers without children can step up is not offering to take the extra work on themselves, but helping parents who are juggling this other full-time job of child rearing during this time, help them deprioritize any work and advocate for that with their managers or leadership too. I think we all have a lot on our plates, and it's not about taking on more or reshifting sometimes. It's about saying, well, what can we actually step down and deprioritize and focus on in the future?
Absolutely. And I spoke about moving to more of an outcome-based culture. I also love the trends around asynchronous work. And so a couple of examples that we've been leveraging is through Google video chats. We'll record those meetings. So if a parent or anyone could not make it, we'll record it, send it to them so they're not missing out. Through Slack, just little reminders, I'm out of pocket right now, so people know that you're not available, go a really long way.
Yeah, and I love those. Those are super thoughtful, and they're small things that make such a huge difference too. One other idea I've seen that I love that's being implemented right now is starting meetings 5 or 10 minutes after the hour. So if you have a child who's at home, who's distance learning, you can go ahead and take that 5 minutes to check in on them. So I think it's these little behaviors that they may seem small, but they make a huge difference too.
I completely agree, Cheryl. Yeah.
Great. So we have another question, and we're loving all these questions. This is fantastic. So this one's from Brittany. How can moms better advocate for ourselves in the workplace when it comes to workload and results-based assessment versus just juggling everything that's tossed at us and burning out?
Just make sure. Yeah, I think really aligning with your manager on what are the key outcomes. And I think you'll see that you can probably discard some of the work that isn't absolutely critical, is going to be really key in this. I also think that often women kind of get pulled into a lot more extracurricular activities too that they might not be getting a lot of credit for. So if you're doing some of this other important work for the organization, make sure that that's being incorporated into your work plan and your professional development. But I think, a strong alignment with your manager on what's possible is most important, in eliminating non-value add work that you really don't think is critical.
Yeah, and 100% agree. I think we've raised the keyword of manager quite often throughout our conversation. And it's true. I think the manager is really key to having a smooth experience back. Managers are often juggling just so much themselves. They may even be having childcare responsibilities full-time at home during this time. And so I think just really speaking up and being crystal clear about what you need during this time and what you think could be deprioritized or set aside for later times when there's more bandwidth is really important.
Yeah.
Great. And we have one more question from Naomi. What would be your top advice for returning parents in their first weeks back at work?
Oh, Well, one of the things that we do as a mom project is we offer kind of a hybrid back because we know it's a really tough transition. Typically, in those early weeks, you're transitioning your household, maybe lining up daycare, getting sort of everything in order. So I would say if you can, try to negotiate like a phased back return to work, so it's not, you're going back day one into a 40 plus hour schedule and you can ease back into it a little bit more. I also have found it's really beneficial to have a peer buddy, especially if you're a new mom, who can kind of point you towards the nursing room and share best practices because it's hard. It's just such a range of emotions that you're going through, and having somebody that you can speak to about what you're dealing with, that's perhaps not your direct manager, and somebody that you can have a really candid conversation with is really key. And, some companies, we actually do a lot of parental. We actually have a program at the Mom Project called Maternity-ship. And so what that does is it provides backfill coverage for an employee going out on leave so that work doesn't just fall to the rest of the team. So that's been really successful if a company is able to invest in that resource, and then you can have a nice transition point. So you can start to kind of take the work back and ease back into it more easily.
Fantastic. Yeah, and at Google, we implemented gradual return to work. So a ramp back program that allows employees to flex their schedules for the first couple weeks back, because it is such a jarring shift to go from full-time leave to full-time work again. And so I think having that flexibility is really key for employees if their employers can offer it. And then 100% echo on the buddy program. I think more people, more managers need to set them up for folks. And it's just really ideal and key to have that support for somebody who is coming back after such a big shift in their lives.
Absolutely. Yep.
Great. And we have one more question from Juanita. How to effectively deal with the stigma in a patriarchal society who believes that it is not good if married women are still ambitious and chasing careers?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think this unfortunately still is pervasive. I think people need to understand that the modern family looks very, very different than it did 2, 3, 4 decades ago. Mm-hmm. Often it is not a choice for either partner to leave the workforce. The cost of childcare has gotten so high in many states, it's actually more expensive than college education. So I think we need to continue to paint the picture of the reality of the American modern family and household. And that often 7 times out of 10, that looks like the mom working. And so we've got to shift cultural norms, perspectives, and reshape the narrative that working moms are great for families. There's a lot of research that shows the benefits for children of moms working and seeing that independence. So I think we have to just continue to beat the drum on why that is a very outdated thought and perspective.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think this is a really tough question. It's a great question. And unfortunately, the stigma still exists. And I think it's really important to stand up, and not just if you're a working mom, but just in general, like if you don't have children, it's still important to support these women who are working and making hard choices in their lives to, as you said, childcare is very expensive, and oftentimes it's not an option to quit sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we actually recently conducted some research through Work Labs, and we found that moms as managers, as colleagues, as leaders lead to better retention in their organizations, more diverse workforces, higher levels of productivity. So we need to reshift the narrative from motherhood being a penalty to a huge benefit that can bolster financial outcomes for companies. So, I think often that part of my job as founder of the Mom Project is really to reshape the narrative of working motherhood. And it takes time, but you just have to keep chipping away at it.
Yeah. And I think the Mom Project is doing some really, really amazing things. So with that, we'll close it off with a Q&A. And I'd love to ask you one more time, can you give us another example of why you're remarkable?
Because I'm raising two very strong boys who will be incredible champions of women.
Fantastic. Love it. And I have some closing icebreakers for you. So
Okay.
We'll go rapid fire if you're okay with that. So first is coffee or tea?
Coffee. Iced coffee.
Me too. Beach or mountain?
Mountain.
Ski or water ski?
Water ski. I cannot ski to save my life.
Read or write?
Right.
Awesome. And finally, cats or dogs?
Dogs. I'm about to get my second. I cannot wait.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I 100% with you. I love dogs too. Great. Well, thank you so much, Allison. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Big thank you to Allison for participating in our first global I Am Remarkable week. We hope today's discussion has served as food for thought and amplified the inclusivity message for all underrepresented groups. And let's keep the conversation going. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. So honored to be here with you today. Such an incredible initiative. So thank you so much to you and the team at Google for this incredible initiative and the work that you're doing.
Fantastic.